Most fans understand the financials that they're reading, the financials that they're seeing in front of them, and they are overwhelmingly backing the owners at this point. Annie Constable put this post up to her article, which I did a video on yesterday. And I wanted to look at some of the responses, because I got to tell you, fans are either...
That's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration. That's a content creator who covers the WNBA full-time, watching his own comment section turn against the players. And he's not alone. Across social media, WNBA fans are doing something unprecedented. They're siding with the owners in a labor dispute. When was the last time you saw that happen in professional sports? The WNBA Players Association opted out of their collective bargaining agreement in September 2024, banking on the league's breakout season to give them leverage, record attendance, historic television ratings, sold-out arenas. They saw dollar signs and demanded their cut. But 3 months into negotiations, something's gone catastrophically wrong. The fans aren't rallying behind the players. They're calling them delusional and greedy.
The league is close to exhausting my interest, and I love basketball. I'm sick of the WNBA. Give the players your best and final offer, and let's end this show already. People are just either, done or whatever. Yep, take it or effing leave it. The owners are never going to bow down to these delusional players.
Look at those responses. These aren't casual observers throwing shade. These are people who follow the WNBA closely enough to comment on Amy Costabila's reporting. They understand the financials, they've seen the numbers, and they're telling the players to take the deal and move on. Here's what the players are demanding: 27% of gross revenue. For context, that means before the league pays for anything, before covering arena costs, before paying staff salaries, before handling travel expenses, the players want more than a quarter of every dollar that comes in. The owners countered with 15% of net revenue, meaning after expenses are covered, the players get 15 cents of every profit dollar. The gap between those positions isn't just wide, it's a fundamental disagreement about financial reality.
Seriously. The WNBA owners view it as a big risk that the WNBA only has one revenue-generating player and one player that draws big ratings. They're not going to lock themselves into a long-term deal unless others can prove market value. Multiple teams get 50 to 75% of their gate from 2 Caitlin Clark games.
Multiple teams getting 50 to 75% of their gate revenue from just 2 Caitlin Clark games. Let that sink in. Not 2 Caitlin Clark seasons. 2 games. 1 home game against Indiana in the first half of the season. 1 in the second half. That's the economic engine driving half the league's attendance revenue. The WNBA had never turned a profit in its 27-year history until potentially 20, and that profit, if it materializes, came from one variable: Caitlin Clark's rookie season. The Indiana Fever went from averaging 4,067 fans per home game in 2023 to 17,036 in 2024. That's a 319% increase. Road attendance for Fever games jumped even higher. The league set a single-season attendance record of 2.35 million fans, up 48% from 2023.
The union will need to sign the CBA or go ahead and strike and see what happens. I don't believe they have leverage they think they do. They've got no leverage. The players have no leverage in this. They think they do. No, you've got one player that's got some leverage. One. And she's about to be a third-year player.
The owners are looking at this situation and seeing massive risk. What happens when Caitlin Clark retires? What happens if she gets injured? What happens if the novelty wears off and casual fans stop showing up? They're being asked to lock into a long-term deal that assumes this growth is permanent, when they have exactly 1 year of data suggesting it might be. And here's the part that's driving fans crazy. The players' union is treating expansion fees and relocation fees as recurring revenue. Golden State paid $50 million for an expansion franchise. Portland is paying the same. That's $100 million coming into the league. But that money comes once. You don't get another $50 million from Golden State next year. It's not salary. It's not sustainable income. It's found money.
And a lot of people are telling the players, shit or get off the pot. If you don't like what's being offered, just go on strike. Just go on strike. I mean, come on. The WNBA players deserve 100% of league profits. That comes to a total of $0.
David Simpson's analogy nails it. If you find a $100 bill on the sidewalk and use it to buy a gym membership, that's great for month 1. But when month 2 rolls around, you need actual income to cover that recurring expense. You can't budget based on finding money on the ground. The WNBA's television deal with Disney, Amazon, and NBC is worth $200 million annually starting in 2026. That's real, recurring revenue. That's the kind of money you can build salaries around. But the players want to count expansion fees in that calculation, which artificially inflates the revenue pool and makes their percentage demands look more reasonable than they actually are. Natasha Cloud, one of the more vocal players' union representatives, went on social media claiming the league is hiding money and refusing to be transparent about finances. She posted about how the players deserve their fair share and shouldn't accept crumbs. The problem? The financials the league has shared show exactly why the owners are hesitant. The WNBA received subsidies from the NBA for most of its existence. It's operated at a loss for 27 years. Even with 2024's spike, the profit margin is razor thin.
Said if you're walking along, you pick $100 up off the street, and then you go to the gym and get a $100 gym membership with that $100. Well, that's great, except guess what? Are you going to find another $100 just laying in the street when your gym membership comes due next month? And I was like, boom, that is a great analogy, because that's what an expansion fee is.
That comment section is brutal. Tell me what you think. The fans are out, and they are. Scroll through responses to any WNBA labor coverage right now, and you'll see the same pattern. Fans begging the players to accept reality. Fans explaining basic business concepts in the replies. Fans saying they're exhausted by the whole situation and ready to move on with or without a season. The Players Association made a strategic miscalculation. They opted out of the CBA thinking public pressure would force the owners to cave. They assumed fans would rally behind them the way fans typically support players over billionaire owners. But WNBA fans are different. They've watched this league struggle for decades. They've seen teams fold. They've watched the NBA prop up the WNBA financially year after year. They understand the business is fragile, and crucially, they saw what happened in 2024. They watched Caitlin Clark sell out arenas. They watched Angel Reese draw crowds in Chicago. They noticed that games without star rookies went back to drawing 4,000 fans. The attendance bump wasn't evenly distributed. It was concentrated around a handful of players, primarily one player. Fans recognize that reality, even if the players' union doesn't want to acknowledge it.
It's like well, you've heard Natasha Cloud. I mean, there's no intellect, there's no actual processing of the numbers and where the league really is, and they still believe fans are showing up for them, and it's these players are.
The owners have drawn their line: 15% of net revenue, improved benefits, better travel accommodations, full salary during maternity leave, housing stipends. The offer on the table represents real improvements over the previous CBA. It's not everything the players want, but it's a significant step forward for a league that's never made consistent money. The players can accept that deal, or they can strike. Those are the options. And increasingly, fans are saying, if you want to strike, go ahead. See what happens. Test your leverage. Find out if the league can survive without you, because we're pretty sure it can survive without most of you. That's harsh, but that's the sentiment building in WNBA fan communities right now.
Tell me what you think. The fans are out. Peace.
Here's what makes this situation particularly precarious for the players' union. They're negotiating from what they believe is a position of strength, but the evidence suggests otherwise. The league had one breakout year driven primarily by one player who's still on her rookie contract. Caitlin Clark is making $76,000 in base salary while generating tens of millions in revenue for the league. She can't renegotiate until after her 4th season in 2028. The players who are actually negotiating this CBA, the veterans who make up the union leadership, aren't the ones driving the revenue spike. Breanna Stewart makes maximum salary. Aja Wilson makes maximum salary. They're established stars, and they're important to the league, but they're not the reason attendance jumped 48% in 2024. The person responsible for that increase has zero leverage in these negotiations because she's locked into a rookie-scale contract. So the owners are looking at this situation and thinking, why would we commit to massive salary increases based on revenue generated by someone who isn't even at the negotiating table? What happens if Caitlin Clark decides the WNBA isn't worth the hassle and goes to play in Europe, where she'd make more money and face less scrutiny? What happens if she pursues other business opportunities and treats WNBA basketball as a side project? The entire financial foundation of this negotiation could disappear. The Players' Union is betting that 2024 represents a permanent shift in the WNBA's business model. The owners are betting it represents a temporary spike driven by unique circumstances. And the fans, the people who actually buy tickets and watch games, are siding with the owners because they watched it happen in real time. They saw which games sold out and which games didn't. They know the difference between Caitlin Clark's impact and everyone else's impact. That's why you're seeing comments like, "The players are delusional, and they have no leverage," flooding every article about CBA negotiations. Fans aren't stupid, they can read attendance figures, they can see television ratings. They understand that the WNBA's sudden profitability is fragile and dependent on factors outside the union's control. The Players Association needed to play this smarter. They should have waited one more year. Let Caitlin Clark's impact prove sustainable. Let the new television deal kick in. Let expansion fees get distributed and invested. Build a track record of profitability that spans multiple seasons, then negotiate from genuine strength. Instead, they opted out immediately after one good year, demanded percentages based on gross revenue, including one-time fees, and assumed fans would support them unconditionally. Now they're facing a public relations nightmare where their own fan base is telling them to take the deal and stop complaining. The owners know this. They're watching the same comment sections, they're seeing the same fan sentiment. They have zero incentive to improve their offer because public pressure is working in their favor. The longer negotiations drag on, the more exhausted fans become, and the more the narrative shifts toward greedy players holding the league hostage. If the players strike, they'll be striking against a fan base that's already turned on them. They'll be walking away from improved benefits and higher salaries because they want even more money from a league that's barely profitable. That's not a winning position. That's not leverage. That's a disaster. The smart play for the Players' Union at this point is to accept the deal, lock in the improvements, and plan to renegotiate in 3 or 4 years when they have more data about the league's financial sustainability. Prove that 2024 wasn't a fluke. Prove that attendance stays high even after Caitlin Clark's novelty wears off. Prove that the new television deal generates the revenue everyone hopes it will. Then come back and demand a bigger piece of a pie that's actually grown. But if they strike now over demands that most fans view as unreasonable, they risk permanently damaging their relationship with the people who support this league. WNBA fans are passionate, but they're not infinite. They're not going to blindly support players who seem disconnected from financial reality. And once you lose that core fan base, it's incredibly difficult to win them back. So the question isn't whether the owners will cave. They won't. The question is whether the Players' Union will recognize their miscalculation before it's too late. Will they accept a good deal that moves the league forward, or will they hold out for a perfect deal that doesn't exist and risk losing everything in the process? Based on the fan reaction we're seeing, based on the comments flooding every article and video about this situation, the clock is ticking. And the longer they wait, the more support they lose. What do you think? Are the players right to hold out for more, or should they take the deal that's on the table? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is the conversation that's going to determine whether we have a WNBA season in 2025.